Hello out there, WebDM fans, viewers. Any of you might be joining us. We're going to get started here pretty soon.
Hey, we're on the air.
Hang on to your butts.
And we're truly professionals here at WebDM.
We are.
So, Jim, how's it going?
It's going all right, man. I'm still, the mind reels from the session we just got finished playing.
Oh my God.
Well, for our viewers who may be following us, my Pruitt and I are players in my brother's Curse of Strahd game, and we've been building up to this moment. We attacked and assaulted Castle Ravenloft, scorning the Dark Master's invitation to dine with him, and showing him the weapons that we bring to bear in the fight against Strahd, and lighting him up in the first round of combat. He immediately retreated, and so now we're searching the castle for a vampire lord that can walk through walls, and has had no telling how many centuries to prepare for us.
Exactly. And well, I mean, we did get the prophecy that we'd meet him in his crypt, so
we got to get to the crypt, man.
Hopefully that's where we're headed.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun in that. Kudos to my brother for seeing this game through. It's been really fun to play through it. I think it's probably one of the best of 5th edition's modules. At least from a player's perspective, it seems like there's a ton of things that are included. There's not a lot of holes missing. That really allows the DM to create this sandbox play that the players can go through. So it's been really fun.
Most definitely. And you're obviously having fun playing your Paladin.
Loving my Paladin. Devotion Paladin.
Yeah.
Fun times. Absolutely love it. And that's a real great segue, Pruitt.
Thanks. I would patent it, but that segues have already been patented, so I guess damn it, next time.
Fine.
But the new Sacred Oath offered in the Unearthed Arcana, the Oath of Conquest and the Oath of Treachery. We're going to get in a little dark with it.
Yeah, we are.
You don't seem too happy about it, Jim.
Listen, man. I find within myself as a D&Der, there are two camps that rage within me, right?
Right.
Like there's the camp that says what's good for the game, and the game as a whole, which means people at tables that I'll never play with, styles that I don't have fun with, whatever, and my personal aesthetic, right? Like,
of course.
And so, like, I feel like for me, paladins are lawful good, plate mail wearing, long sword wielding mofos. They are filled with a divine and holy righteous might.
Mm-hmm.
That's a paladin, capital PTM paladin. And so even the inclusion of Oath of Ancients and Oath of Vengeance, as interesting as I find those in the player's handbook, to me in my mind is like, it's not devotion, it's not paladin. That is. But I recognize that a lot of people have different vision, and that there is room in D&D's fantasy milieu to have different conceptions of what a paladin is. That's an SAT word you're not going to see for a while. And so, and for the record, for any of you viewers out there who are taking the SAT, D&D is an amazing way to expand your vocabulary. That's just a weird thing I learned being a college prep tutor. My people that do D&D, they have better vocabularies. Anyway, that's a weird aside. Dungeons and Dragons, great for your vocabulary. Tell your parents.
It's not all summoning demons and worshiping the Dark Lord.
It's not all worshiping the Dark Lord.
Why won't you just pay attention to me, Mom? Anyway.
All right, so my train of thought is going to be careening all over the place this evening, my friend.
Yeah, me too.
So that said, right, two tensions within me. Oath of Vengeance, Oath of Ancients, Oath of the Crown, really cool concepts, interesting ideas. We've seen an Oathbreaker in our game, watching Emma play Brundle Babrons all the way up to 20th level.
Yep.
So that the Oathbreaker is really fun, particularly in a party with a Necromancer and a Death Cleric. Nice trio for them. And so on the one hand, I find myself Treachery and Conquest. How many games are these going to see play in? Right? These are clearly villainous options.
Yes.
And as much as I love an evil campaign and already have a second one in my back pocket, even having just run my first full evil campaign last year, I already know what I'm going to run for my second one. And interestingly enough, either of these would be appropriate choices for that campaign. But like, neither of these are the heroic fantasy holy warriors that I think of now when I think of Paladin. And so I find myself with both of these options. Mechanically, they're interesting, and we're going to get in the weeds on that here in a minute. Just kind of like what the mechanics are, how they're going to play out maybe at your table. But from a thematic point of view, I find myself going like, really? No Paladin of Liberty? No chaotic good Paladin? No Paladin of Freedom? You can't give us one of those with a UA? Like, come on. Like, there's a lot of design and theme space there that they could have explored.
Yeah.
Instead of giving us two villainous options.
Yeah, they could have gone with like the Oath of Colbert, and that would have been your your freedom and liberty Paladin. Freedom and liberty Paladin. Well, but okay, let's get into it.
Okay.
Because
lead me where you want me to go, my friend.
Well, so Oath of Conquest, the tenets of conquest, douse the flame of hope, rule with an iron fist.
Yes.
Strength above all.
Above all. Honor before none. Yeah, these are some serious.
Those are some tenets.
Those are some tenets. Yes, and I read through those tenets, and I'm gonna go way out there on this one. Maybe I was reminded of the quote from Tacitus where he's referring to the Roman Empire, and he's like, "Where they make a desert, they call it peace." And it's just like the oath of conquest. Paladin comes in and he raises your village. He puts you all to the sword. Looks around at his handiwork and goes, "What a wonderful place to live."
Yeah, what I immediately thought of is a different version of Conan. Instead of Conan the Barbarian, it would be Conan the Paladin.
Right.
You see your enemies driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women. I mean, that would be the Oath of Conquest.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it really is. And so I start to think about this, and I go, okay, DMs, particularly for DMs, like we've got these two options that may or may not see play at your table. It's going to be hard to work in a Paladin of one of these. Then my mind goes, these are DM options. Like you can build a whole campaign around an army led by a Paladin of Conquest, served by his clerics of war, with his battle masters, champions, and zealot barbarians at his beck and call. And it's just like this guy shows up on your doorstep with his hobnailed booted soldiers and his scorched earth tactics, and you got to deal with it. And it's not a planar invasion from another world. It's not a thing. It's just like an army of 80,000 hobgoblins shows up on the kingdom's doorstep, and this guy leads them. And good luck. Yeah,
because what he has at his disposal, if we want to get right into the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
First off, with the oath spells, you get Armor of Agathis, which is pretty cool. You get some protection that if somebody hits you, then they're going to take some damage for it.
Yeah.
Plus, command works. Hold person, spiritual weapon.
Command is a great spell. Hold person, spiritual weapon are all great spells. So, I mean, there's a lot of strong contenders here, including fear, right? Like this class is built around that fear mechanic in a lot of ways. So it's nice to see it show up on the bonus spell list there.
Yeah, especially with one of its later abilities.
Right.
But yeah, that bestow cursed, blight, dominate beast and person, and insect plague. So after everything's done, send insects in, just eat all their crops, and I mean, it really is.
The earth.
Yeah, salt the earth. It's just with their tears and their blood. It's just rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it doesn't really feel like a Paladin.
Doesn't really feel like a Paladin. So I mean, it's more of a Paladin than treachery, and we'll get to that in a minute. At least they have tenets that they have to uphold, right? So, and what about the campaign where the jaded Paladin of Conquest is looking at his subject peoples and going, man, they got a rough lot. Oh man, those people got it raw. And so I don't know. And they call it a Hell Knight. There's not even like any wiggle room. There is probably a space in the sort of whatever for a less stringent version of this class thematically.
Mhm.
And because there's a lot of interesting things going on mechanically that if they
Right.
had if they loosened up the tenants and be like, listen, this could be like a strength through martial might kind of thing, and it's not like crush out and douse the flame of hope, but it's like, no, if you cooperate, you can enjoy the benefits of whatever. So I don't know, because I like to see, you know, they got some nice. They got those nice bonus spells, which are good to have. You know, it's hard. The Paladin's always at the dilemma of like, am I going to smite? Am I going to cast spells? So it's nice to see that there are real options that they might want to cast to compete with the Divine Smite thing. Let's look at their Channel Divinity stuff. What do you think of their 2 strikes?
Well, you know, Conquering Strike, it's pretty fun. You can frighten a big one, a big bad, if you want to get him out of the way for a minute and mop up all of his minions and mobs.
Yeah.
Or you know, just get a lieutenant out of the way.
Right.
So you can focus on a big bad.
Yeah.
And also that also couples with their later aura ability at 7th level. So it's pretty fun. I mean, you know, it at least has synergy within the class, the subclass itself.
Right, but it's like a 1 Channel Divinity, you know, 1 per short rest. It's not like you can do it all the time.
Exactly. Whereas I believe the other paladins have something that lasts, like a bonus that lasts for a full minute, right?
Right.
I haven't really played the paladin, so I'm not too up on their Channel Divinities.
Yeah, the Channel Divinity, each one of them lasts a minute, and you know, it's a boost to something that they can do. And so the fact that these 2 paladin options have not a boost to themselves, but sort of a debuff to their enemies. I mean, the fear lasts a minute, but at the same time, you know, it's hard to see using, particularly because, you know, Guided Strike can be really kind of useful, getting a +10 to your roll. You might just want to like keep that in your back pocket. So I just have a hard time going like, I always save that Channel Divinity for a Guided Strike myself.
No, I completely concur, because you never know. I mean, and to me, it really fits with what they're doing here, where you're conquesting, right? So you don't want to miss. And to me, as a paladin, I think I'd rather hit someone and throw a smite on top of it.
For you really want to land a smite. Yeah.
Right. You know, so like I said, they're pretty fun. But I mean, I actually like the other paladin better mechanically for what it's trying to do. I agree that it's not really, it doesn't feel like a paladin.
It doesn't feel like a paladin. Yeah, so for Conquest, I mean, I guess, you know, I wish that there was more things built around this fear effect. So like this aura of Conquest that they get, disadvantage on fear saves. Yeah, I really wish that there was more than just using your meager paladin spells and a once per short rest Channel Divinity. And so I guess you could say if you've got other casters in the party or other, you know, members of the party that are using fear effects, that you then become the focal point for those fear effects. And that could be kind of interesting, but it's I don't know. If it had been maybe Conquering Strike was for 1 minute every time you attack. An enemy you hit has to make a wisdom save versus fear, or maybe make it on a reaction. Like every time you attack, if you hit, you can spend your reaction to impose this fear effect for them. You know what I mean? So that, like, to turn conquests into more of like devotion and vengeance and ancients, so that it's like a boost to them for a minute. Every time you hit, it's really bad, and then by 7th level, they're going to get disadvantage on that save. Then you become like, you know, you really up your battlefield control with that. So I don't know, maybe that's too much. I don't know. I often find that the best static effect is death, and that things like fear and charm just don't often show up in the games that I run, so I can't tell how effective they are. It could be a very effective tactic to have fear that, you know, be able to fear that much. It might not be very effective at all. So
yeah, I understand that. And to your idea about making it every time you hit, maybe it's just like a 1-round fear effect, where you
Right.
can just kind of cut through a wall of enemies by just like hitting them. They run away. You go to the
Causing them
next
to
one,
scatter.
hit it. I don't know if that's too powerful, but
Yeah.
but yeah, and also like you said, the best static effect is death. It's one thing I've always found about fear is if they run away from you, it's harder to kill them.
It's harder to kill them, yeah.
Because then you have to chase them down.
And so I don't know. It could be that this whole fear angle here for this kind of character, a character that wants his enemies to stay in contact with them, to send them running, maybe isn't the best. Yeah.
Well, maybe they do want them running, and that way everybody's just running away from them.
Running away from them, or setting up, to be picked off by ranged party members.
Mm-hmm.
Implacable spirits. What do you think?
I mean, 15th level, you can no longer be charmed. I mean, isn't that the Devotion Paladin's aura thing?
Yeah, they get something like that as well, although much earlier.
It's much earlier, but I mean, it fits to me within. I mean, a conqueror can't be charmed by those that he goes up against, right? He should be resolute and have an iron will.
Right.
So
it's thematically
appropriate for what they're trying to present.
And then we get to Invincible Conqueror, which is the real, this is talk about a capstone, right?
I mean, I go ahead and tell me what you think, because I have some thoughts on this compared to another Paladin capstone ability.
Gotcha. I mean, I think it's great. For a minute, you get resistance to all damage, an extra attack, and then crit on a 19 or a 20. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
This makes this is like, by this level, and I love all of the Paladin capstones. They're some of the best capstones in the game, in my opinion. And true capstones, not just like more of what you already have, like say Bard's Kit or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So I really like that. And I think this gives you everything you need. Yeah.
Uh-huh. You think?
I guess, use this feature you can't use to get on a long rest. I'm just trying to see.
Here's
what
my
do you
take.
see in it then? Because it seems like you're not sold on it.
Well, I know. It is awesome. But if you look at the Vengeance Paladin's capstone ability, I believe they get a fear effect as part of theirs.
Yes.
So I'm just saying. You
they get that.
You have that 7th level ability that gives everybody disadvantage on that fear save, and if
here was the place to put the fear effect.
Give them a constant radiating fear effect, so that when they're walking around the battlefield, people are just fleeing from them, except for the heroes that he wants to fight. Right. He doesn't care about all the he doesn't care about all the scrubs and the footmen and the foot soldiers and whatever. They're going to run and they're just going to be pissing themselves leaving the battlefield as he cuts a wake with just his presence.
Right.
Right.
I mean, that's the image of that's really cool.
Right. And so that's I look at the Invincible Conqueror and I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Why don't they have other things there to cap off this whole angle you're trying to sell us on? I don't know.
Right.
I just
I mean, that's a fair point. That this is the place to put it in. I believe that even Oathbreaker has something similar to that. And off the top of my head, don't have my book with me real quick, but off the top of my head, Oathbreaker has something. So, I love Invincible Conqueror. Every meleeer, this is perfect for Paladin. It's going to be a melee beast, and especially for if you're using the Oath of Conquest Paladin as an antagonist. This is great in terms of surviving the party, resistance to all damage, and then you're rolling so many dice, usually 19 or 20. I don't know. I'll do a callback to our campaign that we've run. We did that show over Champions. This is going to be a weird tangent to most people. And I've been playing this Paladin, and I can't tell you how many times I've rolled a 19 with my Paladin and Curse of Strahd and have been so upset that I wasn't playing a champion, like a multi-class champion. because it's one of those things where, yeah, that 19 might not come up that much, but it comes up often enough. and so it's a big deal. Really fun.
You're talking 10% versus 5. I mean, you're doubling your chances technically.
Yeah.
It's going to come up.
I guess it wasn't until I started playing. I don't usually play characters that make a lot of attack rolls.
Yeah, man.
So it wasn't until I started playing a character that makes a lot of attack rolls that I realized, like, yeah, I kind of want to crit on a 19 through 20. I remember what it was like in 3rd edition. That's when I want to crit. I want to crit on 17 through 20, honestly. But
yeah, with your Oath of Conquest, maybe you do two weapon fighting.
So just to take advantage of that.
Yeah, you get an extra attack. You make a bonus attack.
You and your 2-weapon fighting crit fisher builds, man. You just can't stop.
You just said you're making more attacks. So the more attacks that you're making, the more chance you have to crit.
Yeah, that's very true.
Especially with something that, like, with a smite. That's the thing, is like, or like with my character, Rovian, he had something he could add on to damage. So you're just waiting for that crit to just come strolling along.
There you go.
Then you pile up. Yeah.
Then it blows up. So I mechanically, I like this oath. It's not the best. Thematically and sort of flavor wise, I wish that it had been less like, extreme. But then paladins are all about extremes. Asking a paladin to be less extreme, it's like asking them to be less of a paladin. So in that respect, it is very much a paladin.
Yeah, I mean,
even if one you'd never want to run across,
Yeah, I mean, it's like asking a mountain to stop being so stolen. I don't know. Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, though.
All right,
with that thought in mind, let's go on to Oath of Treachery, where
the Blackguard.
Where you have no oath. You have you lack no. Your tenants lack no substance. You care about anyone. So, is that just like indifference to the extreme?
This is the one missed opportunity with this oath, is the fact that it's not an oath. This is like a fighter subclass. Like, the tenant makes it a paladin. So to say they have no tenants is like, okay, well, why is this a paladin then? It brings me to a larger point about classes in Dungeons and Dragons. The idea of a class and what it brings in. There are some classes that are generic, the fighter, the rogue, etc. And there are some classes that come packed full of flavor. You know what I mean? Paladin is one of those. Druid is another. This to me is like no tenants. It's like, okay, so this is like the akin of having a druid who's covered in metal armor and wears a bunch of fur skin, animal furs of the beast that they killed just for their fur. You know what I mean? It's like It's like that. And so it's like, give me some tenants. I always lie is a tenant. I spin lies from webs of truth. You know what I mean? So it's like these mixing in little half lies. If I was playing one of these in a party, I'd constantly be stealing other people's thunder. But that's the other thing, is that you would also be a dick player if you were playing a paladin of treachery. You'd be like, you'd just be the one who's like, dude, can you tone it down? Just play my character. Like, tone it down a notch.
If you steal my shit one more time while I'm asleep, I will kill you.
If you take credit for my kills again, those are the kinds of things.
Then you would have some good PvP action.
Right.
PC, PC.
Right, sure. Maybe there are groups out there that like that kind of thing. But I've never read of one of those groups on the forum. I've never heard about one of those groups in person. I've always heard, oh yeah, that one player was a real dick and started fights or stole things from us. So it's like, this is like giving those kinds of players carte blanche to just be just play my character, it's treachery, and just like, so I don't know. We're beating this dead horse.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, give me some tenets. Make it a paladin that's dedicated to deceit and treachery, because then you can be like, yeah, they're what's a drow paladin of treachery like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one of those is after you, and you've got to shake him off your tail.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm looking for here.
Because here's the thing. Again, I feel the same way. But mechanically, I actually do like what this paladin would be able to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
fun stuff like their oath spells. That's a nice array of abilities for a paladin to be able to do.
Oh my God, their oath spells are crazy.
I mean, charm person, expeditious retreat. You know, that's okay. Fine. But invisibility, mirror image, gaseous form, haste yourself.
Yeah.
Confusion can be fun.
Confusion can be fun. Greater invisibility,
dominate person makes sense, and cast wall. I mean, for someone who is kind of treacherous and sneaky, that's a good set of spells to implement that idea.
Right. So like, and in keeping with like, you know, the using these two oaths as NPCs or antagonists in your campaign, to me, I'm thinking like, okay, this guy pairs well with a trickery cleric. And I personally really like trickery clerics. I think they've got a lot of fun things going on. But they play well with a trickery cleric and with an assassin rogue. And so like now maybe you've pissed off some drow outpost or some drow house or something. You've disrupted their illicit trade with the surface world, and now they've sent out a team after you. And it's like led by a paladin of treachery who's always in disguise, always using deception, always using agents against you. And when you finally meet this drow or this paladin of treachery rather, it's just I don't know, you know, you've had to piece through this vast web of misdirection and dead ends and red herrings, wasting all your time and resources. That might be a fun campaign. It might be an incredibly frustrating campaign, depending on how the DM played it and what you thought you signed up for. So those are maybe some ideas for using it as a villain.
Most definitely, because especially a villain that can do what these channel divinities can do. Now, we basically Conjure Duplicate, they do this thing as a trickery cleric, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's basically the same thing. This description goes into a bit more about what the duplicate looks like and its physical properties, or rather lack thereof, I guess. Whereas the duplicate in trickery cleric it's the same thing. You can get advantage, you can cast spells through it, that kind of thing. So but it does use your concentration. That's the big thing, is that it's really neat to be able to have in combat. And the one thing about the trickery cleric that always seemed, I don't know, to me was that clerics are great. Clerics are a great class, but they're not exactly always a melee oriented class. So I always wanted to see what a trickery cleric rogue would look like using this. Now I think what would a treachery paladin rogue look like using this? That could be really fun.
Yeah, because I mean, being able to give yourself advantage, that's pretty fun. Also, just the direction of having that duplicate. Especially having an idea paired with one of its later abilities, the teleport, but we'll get to that. Just put a pin in that. But the other ability, Poison Strike.
Poison Strike.
You want to talk about laying some hurt down? Yeah,
I mean, it's not bad. I think it's a great ability. At the higher levels, up to 40 extra damage. It's nothing to sneeze at. And I think it's an interesting use of the channel divinity. You've either an alpha strike kind of big damage boost, or for a longer fight, this duplicate. I like the duplicate because it gives players of treachery paladins, just like they do trickery clerics, all these neat opportunities for how the illusion interacts and what it looks like and how it interacts with mirror image. And so there's a lot of interesting things you can do for visuals with this, than just descriptions, nothing to do mechanically, just how you describe the way a fight goes or an encounter progresses. Right. So in that case, it's sort of like a cool ribbon ability as well.
Oh, totally. So onto the Aura of Treachery. So
we get two abilities.
You get two abilities, one of which has multiple uses and the other doesn't, because I guess you're not going to give you know, a 10-foot aura since you don't care about anybody.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like that the
Other than what
trickery
you
paladin
as a base paladin, rather.
Well,
yes, but
you're still getting that as a paladin, but
point taken.
you know, you're not going to add anything to that. Not if you can help it.
Right.
But the cult, like, I like that it's so that they're better suited for taking on multiple enemies. You know, going on two on one.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that. You have advantage. Boom.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you have your blade poisoned up, then that first hit, you know, you're gonna add some extra damage to it, just straight up. So I mean, Cold the Herd is fun, and the treacherous strike ability. I really enjoy just the idea of that, being able to redirect a strike that misses you into another.
Yeah, and reinforces, you know, that the treachery paladin does do well in a in a role that usually a villain NPC plays, which is alone or with a small group versus the party. And so I see these two abilities and I'm like, oh, you mean like when the party jumps the main villain bad guy, and okay, now they've got advantage on rolls against the party and can make the party get in each other's way through the treacherous strike. And so it really just kind of cements it that this is a NPC style class. It's but I also just like them mechanically. It's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, being able to do that 3 times, short, long rest. You know, hey,
there you go.
Fun times.
Sure.
So that brings us to the Blackguard's Escape, the 15th level ability, which is the, you know, you get hit, you teleport 60 feet, you remain invisible to the was it into your next turn, or you attack or whatever. Yeah,
similar to an Archfey Warlock, their Misty Escape.
Exactly. Maybe a little like, yeah, exactly. Here's what I like about that. I would love playing a trick. The idea that I did come up with when I was reading this is the idea of a trickery paladin that walks around with his duplicate mirror, like literally where he is, because it says the duplicate doesn't take up space.
Right.
So it's just masked on top of him, so that once you do get into combat, you get hit, you teleport away.
Yeah.
Your duplicate is just sitting there still, so they don't even know you've left.
Right.
I don't know, the idea of that, like pulling one over on a bad guy to get some distance if you needed to. I don't know. It you know, you could bonus action beforehand once you go in.
Yeah.
Bring it up. I don't know.
Or you do that with the you know, with your villain who's about to eat it.
Exactly.
Then teleport out of there and get out. You know, it's a neat ability. I like it. I'm a fan of any kind of like teleport in combo with like teleport and illusion, teleport and invisibility. It's just I don't know why that particular trick really gets to me, but it does. And so, and it reinforces sort of the theme and the theme of the class. Treachery.
Oh yeah. Oh,
so
they're not gonna fight. They're not gonna fight clean. I mean, they're gonna fight dirty. They're gonna use every trick up their sleeve.
Which makes me wonder why they don't have Misty Step on their bonus list. That'd be pretty sweet. But there we go.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Well, if you're the DM, you can just change up the bonus list. Nobody's gonna call you on it.
That's true. But yeah, let's slide right into the capstone ability, Icon of Deceit, which again, you are invisible. Period.
Yeah.
Right there, I'm just like, okay, that's good.
So concentration is greater invisibility.
And then if somebody still manages to hit you while you're invisible, you get to say what their next action is.
Right.
That, to me, that's just like, that's a pretty big
really
F
great.
you. It's pretty great.
It's really great.
If they fail their save, of course. But, I mean, it's just like, what? Wait, what?
Wait, what? Yeah.
But, yeah. And then on top of that, you have advantage on all your attack rolls and a paladin level bonus to damage, which is going to be 20.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
What's not to like? Mechanically, this is a great trickery mail. I could see this making a great Dex Paladin. There always needs to be more options for Dex Paladins. Not all Paladins need to be strength heavy armor. Treachery is a great Dex Paladin. It could be a member of a Thieves Guild, a Drow Assassin, any other number of things as an antagonist. I'm afraid I don't have much advice for how to play one in a party other than don't let the fact that you're a treachery paladin give you permission to be a dick.
Right. Well,
but that's just going to sort of follows the don't be a dick full stop when you're playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, do everyone a favor. Play well with others, unless you're specifically set out at the beginning after character creation. Everyone for themselves. Enjoy your 1 to 2 adventures.
Enjoy them. There are some games where that kind of pitting players against each other can be fun. I've never played in a long-term game that's fun that way. Usually a one-shot where it's like, yeah, you guys are all at each other's throat. So in that respect, I'm afraid that both of these classes feel like DM options, and that's fine. That's a reason why the Oathbreaker and the Death Cleric are in the DMG. And there's no reason that Treachery and Oath of Conquest can't stand alongside them.
Right.
I think of the two, Conquest makes the most sense for a player option. But you would want to try to just work with your DM. Just say, hey, let's talk about these tenants. What does it mean? How am I going to be able to role play these tenants and be a contributing, cooperative member of the party? And it might be that after you talk to your DM about it, it's just kind of like, I don't know, maybe this will work or maybe it will, but it's definitely not something that I wouldn't discuss, potentially with other party members as well.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to, like you said, have a talk, see if you can ratchet down the intensity from 11, bring it down to about an 8.
Yeah, unless, you're in the mood for a pure evil campaign, in which go nuts.
Hey, if you're doing an evil campaign, either of these are great, but if you're a treachery paladin, I mean, how long until you are devolve into in-party fighting? I don't know. Party infighting. I don't know. I don't know.
Who knows? I'd be curious to hear about it. And if anybody ever plays these classes, hit us up. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
That's the thing with all of these unearthed arcanas is like, at this point, there are so many options for classes that if they just stopped, there'd still be plenty of material to go through, plenty of campaigns before they would need to start re-releasing new stuff. I'm not sure. I'm curious after we get done with this series whether or not I want to go through and like count up all of the different options. Like if you take all of the unearthed arcanas and all the books that they printed, how many fighter subclasses are there? How many wizard subclasses are there?
Yeah.
Etc.
Yeah.
And then just see like, you got to play one of those for a full campaign or even just a mini campaign. It's just, there's so much going on.
Right. I have like 6 characters that I want to play, and we just don't have enough campaigns, and they're just stacking up like cordwood over here.
I tell you, my friend, like all my life, there's never been enough D&D. You know what I mean?
Never.
And I used to be able to say play for 12 hours, 2 or 3 days in a row, and not, and I can't do that now, and I'm honestly probably wouldn't want to, but at the same time, there is never enough D&D in this world. And so it sucks because there's going to be characters unfulfilled and campaigns that never get started, and that really blows. But what are you going to do? They keep making stuff,
They keep making stuff, and you just got to keep on rolling, baby.
So I don't know. Do these two pass my test? Do they pass? They fill in unique design spaces in the Paladin class. So in that respect, they check that box. Would I play them? I don't know. I'd make villains out of them.
Yeah.
And that's good enough for me. So I like them even though I find my knight in shining armor, lawful good, paladin just alone and neglected in the corner, a casualty of the overused cliches and lawful stupid players. Nobody wants to play the lawful good paladin of devotion anymore.
Nobody wants to be the cliche in shining armor.
Nobody wants to be the cliche stick in the mud in shining armor, but I do. It's what I like. Oh
hey,
well,
man,
that's why I'm playing one right now. So
exactly. That's why my next character is going to be a samurai, which is kind of the same thing, just a spellless paladin, basically.
There is nothing wrong with playing something that's cliched, giving it just a slight spin, and going for it.
Most definitely. Yeah. So that's I think that's going to bring us to the end of discussion on that. Do we, Travis? Do we have any questions from the viewers out in the world?
We have some Q&A going here for
a little
bit.
Every week, I can't believe it. I find it hard to believe that people watch us and they have questions for us, but I love it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, hell yeah. Not at all. We love it too. We all love it. We want to say what's up to everybody in the comments. There's some, we are working on the live format, and just want to let everybody know that we really appreciate you tuning in and joining us for tonight's show. So check it out. Hey, WebDM, I love the idea of the treachery paladin worshiping some kind of deity of thieves or subterfuge. What do you think about that?
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a treachery paladin would worship like Mask or, any kind of treacherous god of murder, god of thieves, god of sneaking, god of deceit. I mean, that's they don't have any tenets to follow with regards to people, but a paladin generally gets their power from a divine source, right? So yeah, I mean that totally works. It's yeah.
I can see him being like some of the more established deities, using Forgotten Realms as a reference. Mask would be good. Miracle might be good as well. Ball. Excuse me. Those are some of the more older deities. My Forgotten Realms lore is not as up to date as maybe some of our viewers is. But you might also see what if they worship some kind of like just deception as a philosophical principle,
right?
Like never the truth. There are certainly deities that have that, but I really think the idea is cool, and maybe they're a part of some cult that's infiltrating the capital and worming its way into high society through dinner parties and hedonistic extravaganzas that the treachery paladin is organizing. And yeah, go nuts with it.
They came for the tea and I said nothing, and they came for the crumpets and I was still quiet. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, you're
because I was not a crumpet.
Gotta be careful with all the costumes.
I apologize. Right. I apologize.
It's all right.
All right. Any quick thoughts about Yawning Portal? It doesn't come out till April 4th. I'm hearing that Game Stores had an early pre-release. Any early thoughts on Yawning Portal?
So I like the idea of Yawning Portal. I've personally grown tired of the big boxed 1 through 15 campaign that they've been putting out, and I guess Curse of Strahd 1 through 10, Storm King's Thunder sort of 5 through 10ish. So I like the idea of a book that has shorter adventures that you could play in shorter time frames. I like the idea of them converting, or at least showing us what older adventures might look like in 5th edition. I'm curious to see how deadly some of these dungeons are going to be. Tomb of Horrors is the obvious one, but the name escapes me. It's one of the modules that they're playing, and I've read through it. At one point, it's like you're in a subterranean pyramid, and it's slowly filling up with chlorine gas that your characters can't detect or smell or anything like that they will die if they don't stay on the move. And so I'm curious to see how they handle those, how brutal some of these dungeons are going to be in 5th edition. I'm supportive of it. I like it. I'm curious, but I'm also one of those DMs who buys the official material and usually butchers it to make my own stuff. I didn't run out of the Abyss by the book, and I tried to run Rise of Tiamat by the book, but it was weird. I'm curious. I'm cautiously optimistic about Tales of the Ionic Portal, and I like their. I'll buy it. It's great. It's a cool book. I don't know, and hopefully it'll be fun.
Sounds super excited about it, Jim.
I mean, it's hard for me to get super excited about a lot of things right now. Number one, Mass Effect is taking up most of the excitement oxygen out of my room, and ate up my entertainment budget for the spring. So I don't know. It's also really late.
All right, so
sorry,
it is really late. So one thing I want to say to everybody and all of our viewers, the over 300 of them, that we've got some great questions tonight. I've easily got 15 or 20 questions here, so we're not going to be able to get to all of these tonight. So I'm going to hold on. I've got a doc going.
Yeah, sure.
For next week and for future places, find more opportunities to do Q&A. Here's one. How do you feel about this? Is a good one for tonight's show. Feel like handing someone. Okay, wait. How do you guys feel about a character changing oaths in a game for role play reasons? Do you have any ideas for how that would work out? I think that's an interesting idea because, like, the UA comes out, you're playing a paladin who has one kind of oath, and now you want to switch oaths. How would that work?
Well, I mean, treachery is to me the easiest one, because it says you forsaken oaths. Mm-hmm. So you have whatever you were, you don't have anymore, and now you're treachery. I don't know, like if you were like 6th level and you already had the abilities of the other one, Jim, you might want to jump in on that.
So I think, I think number one, as just as an idea, I like the idea of changing oaths. Obviously, treachery and oath breaker are two options for evil aligned or sort of corrupt paladins. But I can see even like an oath of devotion through role-playing reasons becoming like an oath of ancients or even an oath of vengeance. Yeah. Vengeance is also another easy one because you just swear an oath of vengeance. As for their abilities, a lot of that depends, I think, on DMs coming up with the idea for classes that use divine power. Is that divine power already inherent in the person and just they need an object of devotion to unlock that power within them? Or are they or is divine energy being channeled through them from a divine source? You know what I mean? And so like if you're a type of DM that says, yeah, the clerics, the paladins, the whatever, they are vessels for divine power that exist in the gods. So if you switch your oath from, say, devotion to oathbreaker or whatever source that oath came from has now moved, therefore all of your abilities are going to be, if you're already 6th level, you just erase that. You used to use it, now you have new abilities. And maybe you impose some kind of disadvantages or penalties or something until that paladin gets used to their new powers. But at that, even the same time, I think that's kind of maybe extreme. You definitely want to role play it out. You're switching around. It's not just a regular oath that a paladin takes. The oath makes the paladin. And so if you're going to switch that oath, it needs to be for very powerful reasons in game. And so I think I'm inclined to say no on like keeping some powers and then like getting the new ones from your new oath. I kind of think just like clean slate. You have a new oath now. That's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't know. It sounds a little like a long-winded answer or something, but sure, maybe not. Who knows? Hope so.
All right.
We got some more questions.
We got some more. We're going to go into the lightning round here. We got one for Pruitt and one for Jim. Here we go. Pruitt, character question. I want to play a heavy armor paladin who dipped a couple levels into ranger, or just a fighter archer with heavy armor, basically long range damage. Tank. Thoughts?
I would definitely go ranger fighter. That way you could benefit from getting the fighting styles from each and start fighter. That way you'll go ahead and get you can go ahead and get heavy armor and maybe go ahead and take either the defense for the +1 AC when you're wearing armor, or one of the other ones for, I mean, if you're talking about in close tank, like you obviously want to switch over to a melee weapon. So it depends on how you want to fight. Do you want to fight 2-weapon fighting? Do you want to go heavy weapons? Do you want to go one-handed weapon? And then once you get to ranger, you take your whatever it is, the +2 to hit with a ranged weapon. So yeah, you know, balance that out. You want to hit with that, and you want to hit with your melee or defense. So you just make that decision, and then you know, I would maybe go just a 3 or 4 level dip into fighter if you want to do that, just for like the crit. Go champion, and maybe just do a 3 level dip, go champion, and then go rest ranger, so you can just beef out your ranger abilities, and you can run around in full plate. It's still going to mess with your sneaking. If you want to be a sneaky ranger, or if you just want to walk through the woods and take that shit down with your bow, and if it gets close enough, then you pull out your warhammer or whatever and clock it over the head. You know, that's one way to go. If you're using feats, you know, do sharpshooter and great weapon master instead of ability score increases. That way you have both things covered, and who gives a crap? I mean, you pull out your longbow or you pull out your greatsword. I mean, but definitely start fighter.
It's an interesting character idea.
Yeah, I mean, you could just do it with 2 feats. Do a human. That way you can start with one of them. Go ahead and start with sharpshooter, or start with great weapon master. And eventually maybe throw in heavy armor master, so you're getting that base damage reduction with heavy armor. Yeah. So that was a lot of uhs and ums while I was thinking, but apologize for that. But yeah,
That was a fine answer to a fine question. All right, here we go. Jim,
Yes,
lightning round. I've got a vengeance paladin
Yes.
who has been turned lawful evil. How should I approach this when one of the tenets is to fight the greater evil? More generally, how do you handle forced alignment?
So if it's forced alignment change, then it's probably magical, I would say, and so obviously finding a way to get rid of that as quickly as possible. Is it going to be? Does it take a dispel evil or remove curse, or dispel magic or remove curse, or but dispel evil maybe? One of those things. That'd be my first priority. Number 2, there's nothing that says because you are lawful evil that you don't use extreme and cruel methods in your pursuit of the greater evil, right? So if you're stuck with this alignment long term, then maybe your character just doesn't care the collateral damage that they leave in their wake as they are pursuing their targets of vengeance. You know, maybe it's the kind of thing where it's just like, oh, that village over there accused of heresy. The only way to root out heresy is to burn them all to the ground. No one's innocent. That kind of attitude. So if it's a forced alignment change that you're trying to just roll with, and you're not trying to reverse, then that's a path that you might be able to take. Otherwise, man, get that alignment back to where you want it. You know, the cursed paladin is sometimes a cool story to play out. So it could be an interesting opportunity to have a different alignment for a couple sessions while you work on a way to reverse that alignment change, and then atoning for it after the fact.
Well, this guy's saying it's due to lycanthropy. Like, I think that's kind of cool. Like a paladin that got has to deal with an alignment shift, and then what, cure their lycanthropy? You know, like that's a cool quest in and of itself.
That's a really cool quest, and yeah, a lycanthrope paladin is a really interesting character to be to get to play. So you could say, you know, you could be like, yeah, screw this, I don't want the lycanthropy. Obviously, lycanthropy is pretty easy to remove once you're at 5th level or above. So there is that. But if you're not that level yet, or you're waiting to get to that level, you know, I would role play it up. You know, maybe it really disturbs them. Maybe it's really troubling that they find these new urges within them that are unlocked because they're now beasts, and their desire to kill and maim and murder and kill for the joy of it is disturbing to them. And when they're in their more lucid moments, maybe they have some remorse, but they can't stop themselves. That'd be ways I might role play that kind of transformation. Sounds like an interesting character. Sucks that you got contracted lycanthropy.
Yeah, but to me, a lawful evil paladin of vengeance is would be like you role play that like Judge Dredd taken to like 11.
Oh yeah.
You know, just you stay within the law, but just barely because you're in pursuit of the law. You know?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways that you can play it. Sounds like an interesting, at the very least, it sounds like you got yourself in quite the pickle, and need to get that curse removed very quick.
All right, so final two questions, one-word answers. Jim, are you drinking whiskey?
No, I'm drinking juicy juice.
All right. And for both of you, one-word answer. What class is Link from The Legend of Zelda?
Shit. Oh.
See, I think it depends on what items he's using, but I want you guys to say, like, what you think his class should be.
Jeez. To me, he's a ranger.
Ranger, yeah.
He fights. He explores.
Bow,
He solves
sword.
puzzles. Bow, sword. Yeah. He's got that horse.
Sometimes he has a little familiar following him around, a little, I don't know, little woodland being following him around.
Yeah. I'm ashamed to say I haven't played a Zelda since Ocarina of Time.
That's the last one I beat.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I hear Breath of the Wild is awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I've got 10 more questions here. We've run out of time. We're going to save them for next week.
We should do one of these Sunday shows one day when the UA is over, just Q&A. That'd be fun.
We definitely have a Q&A show ready. And that's one of those things where we've got to tell, get on Facebook and be like, hey, everybody, show up at this time. And, we've been intentionally not announcing when we were going to do these because we didn't know if we were going to have tech issues or anything like that. So as these start to tighten up, we'll get to do some hardcore Q&A. So listen, I'm going to let you guys say bye to the folks, but I just want to let everybody in the chat room know and everybody watching the show, look forward to Wednesday's show. Wednesday's show is a pip, and looking forward to showing it to everybody, and thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, Travis. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out and seeing us. Pruitt, I'll catch you later, and I love you.
I love you too, and everybody have a good week. Be sure, as always, get down, talk to us in the comments. Maybe we can answer some of these questions in the comments. I don't know. We love you. Come back on Wednesday for our next show. I'm not really sure what it's going to be. I'm excited to see what a pip looks like in show form. And so tell your friends about us. We love you. And keep on rolling.
Keep on rolling.
Next 20, yo.
Later on.